By the time that Luke Skywalker surrendered to Imperial forces on Endor in a desperate attempt to turn his father back to the light side of the Force, Vader was already rife with internal conflict, tormented by confusion and indecision. As both sides of the Force whispered to him, it was still the dark side that controlled Vader the most. The Sith Lord knew that no matter what happened when he confronted Luke again, the outcome would lead to his destiny. To really dive into Vader's thoughts, I'm going to pull from two books: the novelization of Return of the Jedi, which is still considered loosely part of canon, and the Legends book, The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader. Knowing that Luke was among the rebels on Endor, Vader wished that he could somehow escape with Luke to another planet and convince him to become allies. He allowed himself to imagine a possible future with his son, seeing Luke as his apprentice and partner. He would teach Luke everything he knew, and there would be no rivalry or secrets between them. With their bond of blood and shared power in the Force, they would become the greatest Sith Lords in history. However, Vader realized that there was nowhere they could hide, nowhere for them to run while the Emperor still lived. His dreams of life with Luke were merely delusions, and Vader felt powerless to disobey his master. As he waited on Endor, Vader could sense many things through the Force, and he could feel that his destiny approached. It resonated like a drum getting louder in his mind. He could feel dread, but fear like that excited him, so he let it fester within himself. His senses were heightened, his passions were honed. Destiny came closer. He sensed victory as well as mastery, but they were laced with something else. He couldn't see what it was, and it confused him, though he knew that the future was always in motion, making it difficult to see. The apparitions of the future tantalized him, their swirling specters always changing. His future was cloudy, thunderous with conquest and destruction. The dark side was strong within him. When Luke was brought before him, Vader was surprised to see his son dressed in an all-black uniform, and wondered if that meant that Luke had already surrendered to the dark side. He decided that Luke had not yet turned, and was glad to see that Luke had built a new lightsaber and received a new hand, just as he had seen in his visions of the future. When Luke called him father, Vader was surprised to realize that he actually enjoyed hearing Luke refer to him that way, feeling some happiness at the remark. But when Luke called him Anakin, Vader thought that his son was foolish, and insisted that the name of Anakin Skywalker had no meaning for him anymore. As Vader repeated that he needed to obey his master, Luke warned Vader that he would be forced to kill him. Vader thought that he had done worse things, and resolved to indeed kill Luke if he had to. As Luke pleaded with him to let go of his hate, Vader wondered what would happen if he could renounce that darkness within him, before repeating that it was too late for him. As Luke was taken away, Vader was left with his thoughts again, the conflict stronger than ever. He told himself again that he needed to obey his master, even if it meant the death of his own son. When Luke confronted Darth Vader for the final time, it was the ultimate clash between the Jedi and the Sith, the light and darkness that had influenced the Skywalker family for decades. In the face of the two reigning Dark Lords of the Sith, Luke was certain that the light side of the Force would prevail, and that his father would turn away from the dark side. Vader's conflicted emotions tugged at his mind throughout the entire duel, as Luke pleaded with him to let go of his hatred. However, it wasn't until Vader was faced with another choice that he finally opted for a selfless act to save his son from death, and was redeemed in the Force, becoming Anakin Skywalker once more. In the Legends novel The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, we finally learn Vader's thoughts as he was defeated by Luke, and he chose to save his son from the wrath of the Emperor. As Luke was goaded into a fury by Vader's threat to corrupt Leia, the two traded blows in the dark, cramped area under the Emperor's throne, and Vader was forced to retreat. Luke's relentless attacks led them to a short bridge beside a deep, open shaft. A glancing blow ruptured Vader's life support system, and as he fell back against the bridge's railing, he was unable to stop Luke's blade from severing his right hand. As his lightsaber fell into the seemingly bottomless shaft, Vader fell to the floor, badly wounded and completely exhausted. Luke was poised to deliver a killing blow, and Vader noticed that the Emperor had risen from his throne to stand on the nearby stairway, instructing Luke to fulfill his destiny and take his father's place with the Sith. So this is how it all ends, Vader thought. But to his surprise, after a moment, Luke deactivated his lightsaber and flung the weapon aside, declaring that he would never turn to the dark side, and he was a Jedi like his father. The Emperor scowled and resigned the young Jedi to his fate. Still lying against the bridge's railing, Vader watched the Emperor extend his gnarled fingers and unleash blinding bolts of blue lightning. The lightning struck Luke, who tried to deflect the crackling bands of Force energy, but was so overwhelmed that he crumpled to the floor in agony. No, Vader thought. No, not like this. As the Emperor continued to strike Luke with his barrage of Force lightning, Vader struggled to his feet. One leg was completely broken, and the other wasn't functioning correctly. Moving awkwardly, he shifted his bulk to stand beside his master. On the floor, Luke writhed in pain and was on the verge of death as he begged his father to help him. Vader watched Luke curl into a fetal position as the Emperor hurled an even more staggering wave of lightning. Vader had no doubt that Luke was about to die. As his son screamed for him and the Emperor unleashed more lightning, Vader realized that Luke was not simply he and Padme's son. Luke loved him, even as Vader. Luke's clothes began to smolder as his body involuntarily spasmed. Suddenly, Vader realized that he was no longer concerned about his own personal future. Despite all the terrible, unspeakable things he'd done in his life, he knew he could not stand by and allow the Emperor to kill Luke. When he had first become a Sith Lord, he had become consumed with selfishness, thinking only of himself and his own power. Thus, he had learned the final curse of the dark side, the trickery of the Sith, and he was left with only himself and his service to his master. But in that moment of awareness, concerned only with saving his son, he was Darth Vader no more. He was Anakin Skywalker. It took all of his remaining strength to seize the Emperor from behind, lift him off his feet, and carry him to the open shaft. The Emperor continued to release lightning bolts, but they veered away from Luke and arced back down to crash upon him and Vader. The lightning penetrated Vader's already broken life support armor and electrified Anakin's organic remains, but he lurched forward until he could throw the Emperor into the shaft. Palpatine screamed as his body plummeted. Still trapped within Vader's agonizing armor, Anakin collapsed at the shaft's edge, but heard the explosion of dark energy that consumed the fallen Emperor. Hearing his own breathing as a rasping rattle, Anakin knew that Vader's respiratory apparatus was destroyed. He felt something tug at his shoulder, and realized Luke had crawled beside him and was pulling him away from the edge of the abyss. Anakin knew that his death was imminent as his son hauled him away. It's over, he thought. The nightmare is finally over. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and may the Force be with you.